popular questionable behavior is the replication crisis for archival analysis, of course. And for our paper to be replicated by future studies, we also make very detailed description about where we get the data from, how we analyze the data, we winterize the data or truncate the data, and also if we use a programming process like the Python program, we will also provide the code with the Python program online in our personal website, and we also will share the data to the journal that we submit, and so that if future other researchers are curious about how we do the analysis or whether our data is replicatable, they can get easy access to our data on the online appendix or through our personal website. So I think the most important thing that to avoid the replication crisis is that to keep record of all your analysis and the data in hand. No matter whether you are the data analyst or not, there are certain procedures or practices that you could or your co-author could keep in track so that everyone on the project would be on the same page about what the data or what the project is going on. So I think actually I have some like sort of bullet point, the steps that maybe it's easier or more regular to follow so that to avoid some misunderstanding or misconduct in the data analysis process. So I think the first of all is automation. So you do automation as much as possible. What does automation mean is that you automation all the programs, so you avoid human adjustment of your data. If you can download the data using like the remote code and run the programming without manually interruption, then do automation. I think this is the first step. And the second step is keep the data under version, because you have the raw data and then you have somehow partial clean data, and then you have the final version of your analysis, data for your analysis. And I think it's a good practice to put the data into different versions so that you know from which step your data is shrinked or your data is somehow reduced to a certain subsample. So I think the second point that I recommend is to keep the different version of your data. I think the third point that is also very important is that you write a single script that could run the analysis from the beginning till the end. So we sometimes use different data settings for different part of the analysis, but you can have a master file to call in for different analysis so that you have only one single script that could run from the beginning, from the raw data until the end, like the regressions, and you create your own tables of the analysis. And the last one I would suggest is that to have a management system. So we always have, like for me, I always have a notes so that my co-author could take a look at, for version 1 this are the analysis, and for version 2 this are the analysis. So I have a very detailed comments notes so that my co-author could very easily understand what I'm doing using this programming file. I think it's also very useful that if you go back to the project or go back to a project that you've done like a couple of years ago, it's very difficult to somehow memorize what are the code for. If the theoretical prediction of your results is different from what the data or the data analysis tells you, I think there are certain points that we would like to check. The first one, of course, I think first go back to the theory prediction, because the theory prediction is suitable under circumstances, certain circumstances. So then I would first check whether my setting is really significantly different from the setting that the theory could be implementable. And then if the theory is really supportive in my setting, and the second step that I would go to check the data, of course, because we know that an analyzed data is a long process, and it might be mistakes in coding, and it might be the ways that you're dealing with the missing value, or the ways that you clean the data might not be the best one. So I think the second step, if the theory is correct and you believe that the results should be there, and I think you might take more time checking the code, code and to see whether you clean the data properly. And if your theory is built on prior research and they find the results, probably you would also go to their papers to see how they analyze the data, how they deal with their data, whether they truncate the data, winterize their data, or how they take care of the missing value. Just keep consistent with the prior research to see whether you will find a different results.